Hello, everybody. I'm Gerald Van Jackson. I'm Councillor in Milton and Cabinet Member for Transport. And I'm chairing this meeting today. Usual housekeeping stuff, no fire alarm. If there is one, we meet at Queen Victoria. I don't think we have any apologies for absence, but we have had some written deputations from both Stagecoach and from First. And I'm not sure if everybody's had copies of those. But let's just quickly go around and introduce everybody. Graham, do you want to start?
I'm Councillor Graham Heaney. I'm the Labour Group spokesperson for Transport.
Councillor Simon Bosch. I'm the Conservative spokesman for Transport.
Excellent.
I'm Barbara Thomas, Principal Transport Planner for TROs.
Michelle Love, Safer Travel Manager.
Martin Labour's Assistant Director for Infrastructure.
We'll come to you first, Brian.
Thank you very much. Brian Madgwick, Councillor for Paulsgrove, Independent Opposition Spokesman.
Jason Allen Brown, Senior Project Manager in Infrastructure.
Excellent.
Aneta Skurtu, Project Manager.
Alison Harper, Democratic Services.
Okay, thanks very much indeed. We're here just to do one item only, one proposal in terms of City Centre North, TRO. And yet, are you going to do an introduction and walk us through this? Oh, sorry. Oh, declarations of interest, are there any? Yes? You own Stagecoach.
No, it'll be First Bus, I think. It's non-prejudicial, but the Uber representation mentions Uber Boats by Thames Clipper in its representation. I was part of the design team for the Thames Clippers, so therefore I need to declare that, but I do not consider it a reason to excuse me from this particular decision.
Okay. Any others? No? Okay, and Yetta, back to you.
Thank you, Aaron. I'm going to present a short slide deck to aid my description of or a summary of the report prepared for this decision meeting. The purpose of this report is to consider representations received during the TRO consultation for the proposed bus gates, one-way streets, speed limits, and waiting and loading restrictions in the city centre north in Portsmouth. The South East Hampshire Rapid Transit Scheme seeks to improve public transport provisions and journey times across the Solent region. This is to achieve consistent bus journey times, which will connect with rail and ferry services to create integrated transport system across the South Hampshire region, as well as improve productivity and connectivity via better walking and cycling provisions across the city. One of the 9 South East Hampshire schemes identified in Portsmouth is City Centre North. This scheme is proposed to create a new bus corridor across Unicorn Road South. This is the bus corridor. To Commercial Road via a new road link between Unicorn Road and Cascades Approach, as highlighted, immediately to the south of St. Agatha's Church, which is positioned in this area. And along Charlotte Street to the city centre shops, starting from the eastern arm. This is to join up existing bus-only provision at Edinburgh Road and existing bus lane at Unicorn Road, providing better penetration to the city centre by making public transport well placed for future development. In order to better manage traffic flows around the revised Unicorn Gate junction, as we can see on this plan, it is proposed to prohibit vehicles from travelling straight ahead from Unicorn Road, this particular approach, southwards to Unicorn Road, southern section, at its junction with Market Way on this side. The existing left turn lane from Market Way to Unicorn Road is retained, as we can see on this approach, going towards the city centre south, to accommodate the new road link. The new road link is proposed to operate as bus gate, open to buses, taxis and cycles only. Traffic using that particular road link will be subject to 20 mph speed. Next section of the proposal is Charlotte Street, which would remain one-way eastbound to Brewer Street. The one-way would extend to Commercial Road and access would be retained for buses, cycles and emergency vehicles only from this particular section up to the junction with Commercial Road. The proposal also includes one-way streets on Eden Street, Toby Street and Brewer Street, as we can see on this area, and then southern section, which is Brewer Street. The proposal also includes, ensures that buses are not getting stuck with the main traffic and therefore no loading at any time restriction along Charlotte Street section will be introduced. The lay-by opposite to Westmouth junction with Brewer Street will also become a loading only on this section to assist with loading facilities for nearby businesses. Moreover, businesses will be allowed to load at Brewer Street and also they are allowed to load on double yellow lines on Eden Street and Toby Street in the proximity of the works. Moreover, 20 mph speed limit will be introduced along the whole section of Brewer Street, Charlotte Street, Eden Street, Landport View, Payne Street and Toby Street, as well as the section of Commercial Road from the junction of Charlotte Street. Those proposals are aligned with Portsmouth Local Transport Plan 4 and are aiming to enhance public transport provisions within the city. The recommendation of this report is that the Cabinet Member for Transport approves the City Centre North scheme and the implementation of the TRO 40 for the introduction of bus gates, one-way street, speed limit and waiting and loading restrictions in the City Centre North of Portsmouth as advertised following public consultation. Thank you.
Thanks, Samantha. We've got letters from both from Mark Reddy and from Simon Goff from First, but Mark, you're here. Do you want to talk to your deputation? Thanks, Mark. We've also got a letter from Simon Goff from First South, which, for the record, I think I should read out. And it's to Peter Shelley. Dear Peter, I'm writing to express our strong support for the proposed new City Centre North Bus Priority Scheme in Portsmouth. The proposed City Centre North Bus Priority will give buses a direct link from Unicorn Road to Commercial Road North. This new route will pass Cascade Shopping Centre. This will help enormously increase visibility of buses and help to encourage people to use the bus as their transport mode of choice. At First South, we strongly believe that this bus priority initiative will have numerous positive impacts on the community, the environment and the overall quality of life for residents in Portsmouth. It will provide greater reliability of services and help to alleviate traffic congestion and reduce car pollution. This is a vitally important scheme as it has the potential to make a transformative impact on the city, and it has my full support. Let's just check. No, and those are the only two I've got. Any more? Okay, just for the record, I had a conversation earlier this morning with somebody from, who are they called? Uber, that's right. These people whose company I don't use. And they were worried that private hire vehicles were being put at a disadvantage against taxis, the Hackney taxis. But I explained to him the issue of having vehicles in what is currently a section of pedestrianised road and wanted to keep that to the absolute minimum. And he was happy if they were excluded as long as all other taxis and private hire vehicles were also excluded as well, which I think is a logical position. Okay, folks, let's see. Colleagues, who would like to have a go and have a chat about this first? Simon?
Yeah, thanks, Gerald. Just on the subject of taxis, Uber are private hire. We have private hire taxis. We also have Hackneys, so I tend to look at it from either private hire or Hackneys' point of view. We've done a trial with some bus lanes with regards to private hire, but that is purely a sort of a trial at this moment in time, and obviously this bus lane wouldn't feature. But does that mean that Hackneys would be able to use this bus lane?
My understanding is that they would be able to use most of it on Charlotte Street, but not the last bit where it got up to Commercial Road. Is that right? Martin is nodding in a sage-like manner.
Yes, so the Hackney taxis can go up the bus lane between the church and the multi-story car park. They can go along part of Charlotte Street. When they get to Landport View, they would have to turn left
into Eden Street.
That's Hackneys only. So they cannot go all the way along to the far east end, to the north Commercial Road North point, and so between Subway and just to the north of Subway there.
So that would be, they'd have to turn left into, I think it's Eden Street that goes up behind the old Argus to...
Yes, yeah.
So it sort of defeat the object for them, because they'd have to go back on themselves and come all the way back round again by the sound of it. So, okay.
Well, if they wanted to come back to that starting point. But also, just very importantly, likewise, private hires wouldn't be allowed through the bus lane onto any part of the bus lane. And we're trying to minimise the amount of traffic that is going through that narrow stretch of Charlotte Street just to the north of the Subway.
Yeah, I sort of get that. It was just understanding how the Hackneys are, because obviously in Portsmouth they're allowed to use the bus lanes as it stands at this moment in time. Private hires, obviously, as I said, it's a trial, and they're only doing select bus lanes to see that, and that can be a degree of flexibility around that. The other question I have, if I can, is we've got Cascades car park one side and the back of Cascades and all the entrances there as well. And my understanding of it, when we get into the end or the north end of Commercial Road, you're essentially taking the buses through what is a pedestrianised area. I'm looking at it from a point of view that I've seen a figure of 35 bus movements an hour, so that's one every 2 minutes, going along that stretch of Charlotte Street, which actually isn't a very well-used piece of road at this moment in time, and therefore you've got a lot of pedestrians going from that major car park into the back of Cascades. Plus, you've got the same scenario when you get to the top of Commercial Road, where you're going to be putting one bus every 2 minutes at 20 miles an hour in conflict with pedestrians, and I can see which is likely to come off worse in that scenario, particularly if I'm being cynical. You have got a McDonald's restaurant there. How are we going to manage that particular potential conflict, because it is an area of significant pedestrian footfall that we're going to be putting buses through?
Thank you, Simon. I'm going to hand over to Anita in a second because she's going to tell you about the detail, some of the detail around the design there. But this is about raised tables and crossing points. So there's two parts to your question, I think. One is you mentioned about the major car park, the NCP car park. People cross Charlotte Street to Cascades itself, and also there is that in the narrow piece of Charlotte Street, just by Subway there, the north of Commercial Road North, introducing buses there to where there's only at the moment pedestrians, very light traffic. We've put in a raised table there. And Annetta, do you want to just add to some detail on that?
Thank you. Definitely. Through the design process, that element of the northern section, which is currently pedestrianized, and how it will be introduced, converted into a bus gate, has been considered. And for that reason, there are quite few physical infrastructure changes which are going to happen to the area to manage that risk of having buses being introduced through the pedestrianized area. And that includes currently that section of raised table will be removed, and the carriageway will be resurfaced, and the level difference will be introduced between the footways and the carriageway surface, so that the physical delineation helps to manage the area, especially for people who are visually impaired, because they prefer to have curb to be able to navigate the zone going forward. Moreover, there is an introduction of a variety of crossing points to channel pedestrians within the desired lines from one section of Commercial Road to the northern section across the bus gate, and that incorporates an 8-meter wide crossing point which will be elevated to provide the priority, as well as few other crossing points on the side roads to make sure that the pedestrians have clear routes for navigating the space with the opening of carriageway for the buses. Moreover, at the entrance to Commercial Road and Landport View Junction, there will be a new zebra crossing, which will clearly define area where the pedestrianized zone is commencing and how people can cross the carriageway from the NCP car park to the southern footway and then continue along Charlotte Street footway. So those elements were assessed through the road safety audit process, and the designers have engaged with the various groups, including people from a partially sighted society as well as Hive, to comment and not only to comment but also to contribute to the design development, with mind that there will be a bus movement introduced through the area.
It sounds very thorough, Gerald. A couple of other things that fall from that. I still come back to the bus every 2 minutes, and we currently have a 20-mile-an-hour limit going in there. Now, I appreciate there's a difference between putting the limit in and what can actually be achieved by the buses, but I would like to think that we've had a look at the speed, because certainly when you get to that junction by Subway, it is essentially a a blind point there, and you have pedestrians coming around that particular area there. Bus going at some reasonable speed round there might present itself as a bit of an issue. The other one I have is we have a parking restriction all along that section there. I'll call it by McDonald's for want of a better expression, but which largely tends to get ignored by all the delivery drivers that pick up the McDonald's, and I don't know why anybody wants to have a McDonald's breakfast home delivered, but hey-ho, some do. What are we taking into consideration at that point there? Because quite clearly you're going to have, again, and I come back to the one bus every 2 minutes, coming around that corner to be faced potentially with a variety of mopeds and a variety of other things, either parked there or zipping backwards and forwards in front of them. So, again, a potential for conflict at that point.
On the second bit, I think we've been to have a look at up the top of Commercial Road and what we can do, and I think there is a potential solution there that would work, which would mean that we wouldn't have that conflict. But that's a work in progress we'll come back to. And yes, the first bit. My understanding, Simon, is that we can't have a legal speed limit below 20 miles an hour. It's as low as we're allowed to go.
So at the moment, this area is subject to 30-mile-per-hour speed limit. Going forward, there is a proposal to introduce the minimum speed limit, which can be enforced on UK roads, and that's 20. But what I would like to highlight is also that the nature of the area, but also the geometry of the road, especially at the approach to the subway buildings, will make it very challenging to travel with 20-mile-per-hour speed limit, because it's a sharp bend, and with the vehicle swept path analysis which we've undertaken during the design process, that speed limit will be much lower than 20 miles per hour. So that risk is mitigated through the nature of the alignment of the road, through the variety of crossings and the signage, which will enhance the fact that it's an entrance to the pedestrianized zone, and therefore the drivers will have to pay attention to and watch the space for other road users using the proposed facilities.
Thanks. I appreciate that 20 is the lowest I can do, and I guess really, and I see what we're doing from a design point of view, but I guess my comment was more designed for the benefit of the fact that Mark sat in the room with a point of view of bus drivers not doing 20 mile an hour down that, even though they legally can, because we have the potential conflict with
I'm sure the message is heard and understood. Graham, comment? Any thoughts?
Yeah, just a couple of points of clarification. I mean, obviously, I've got a slightly smaller diagram here, so I'm assuming that when it joins Lake Road, those are in fact give-way lines that would mean the bus would have to stop when then coming from the right. Is that correct? Have I interpreted those lines correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
What I would like to highlight is that incoming traffic from the right-hand side at that particular give-way line will be taxis only, because with the introduction of this bus priority route, all the buses or majority of the buses will be utilizing that connection traveling northbound. Therefore, the conflict point is kept to the minimum in terms of the number of oncoming vehicles from the right.
Yeah, that's fine. That's helpful. And just to clarify again on what you said about the pedestrians crossing Charlotte Street, because at the moment it's obviously pedestrianised. You said the road is going to be dropped and it'll be different. But I think you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the buses coming along that Charlotte Street would actually have a give way for the pedestrians crossing, because the question is, when does a pedestrian stop? When does the bus stop? There obviously won't be any sort of light control. It'll be a judgment matter, a bit like when we cross by the railway station just outside of here, where you have to take a judgment about whether to step into the road or not. Is that how that's going to work?
That's correct. It's an informal crossing. And Alison, if I could share my screen, I will highlight the area and present it as it's been designed. So this particular junction, it will be uncontrolled crossing, therefore pedestrians will need to wait for the buses to pass and therefore continue their crossing from the northern to southern side or vice versa. And it will operate in similar way to the station crossing. However, we have undertaken the surveys to assess the number of pedestrians and to classify the type of crossing which would be suitable in that particular location. And according to our analysis, as well as knowledge collected through the design stage, that uncontrolled crossing is deemed suitable for the area, as well as the number of people crossing north and south. So hopefully that helps to understand how this arrangement will look.
Yeah, that's really helpful, actually, and it sort of corrects what I originally said, because buses won't give way because it's a bus priority route, so the buses get priority. Yes, yeah. So they won't just give way. So that's fine. I understand that. That's made it really clear. Thank you. My one here is not quite so clear. So thank you. I did have one other question, if that's okay. I don't want to steal Councillor Madgwick's thunder, but I know there was a bit of a discussion around shared pedestrian cycle on the thing, and I just wondered if that question had been resolved.
Brian, do you want to ask a question about shared cycle and footways?
I did ask that question this morning, and I was told that there was going to be no shared...
That's a different scheme.
Yes, but, I thought this would be this as well.
No, that's a different kettle of onions. And is there any shared pathway here between cyclists and pedestrians?
Yes, there is, but at
That's
Unicorn
terrible.
Road, Marketway Road Junction, adjacent to Cascades Shopping Centre.
Can you point it out?
Alison? So the shared pedestrian facilities are proposed between the start of the bus corridor at the northern end, adjacent to the Cascades Wall, and then connecting to the approach to Bishop Crispian Way roundabout on the right-hand side.
And Brian, I think the feedback we had is this is an area of very low pedestrian usage.
Yes, I presume that there's not enough width there to put a... Yeah. Just don't think they obey the rules, the cyclists. I'm sorry, but I just don't...
But that I think is most people's experience, not of all cyclists, but of at least some.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway.
I'll accept that.
Yeah, I wouldn't, but anyway. Okay. Brian, any more from you? Any other thoughts from you?
No,
okay.
I'm all right with everything.
Graham, do you want to come back? No?
I'm happy with the scheme. My question's been answered, so that's a problem.
Simon, are you happy?
Well, it's your decision, Gerald.
Yeah,
it's not ours, but...
you know
but
me, I try to work in a consensual manner.
But having said that, I mean, I've been engaging with Martin on this for, I was going to say years, but it seems like years. So I'm comfortable with it because I think this is the precursor of the development in that particular area. So we're getting the road network sorted out before we have the proposed development there. But I hope it will be monitored going forward, but generally I'm in support of it.
Okay. Brian, are you happy with this? Good. Well, I think we're all in the same place, in which case it is sensible to say that we are happy. Sorry? But no, so we all seem to be in the same place, so therefore it seems the right decision to say yes to the TRO as advertised and published. Okay, folks? I think that's it. Thank you very much indeed, everybody, for your time. And that means the meeting is now finished.